Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Penn Foster College Business Orientation Webinar. My name is Bob Messina, and I'll be your host for today's presentation. First of all, on your screen you should see the topics that we're going to cover today. This usually takes anywhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours, depending on how many questions are asked. The main focus of the webinar is to get you more familiar with Penn Foster, our policies and procedures, get a little better idea of what to expect from us, what we expect from you. We're going to take you a lot of different places. We have a simulated student record set up for the presentation. We're going to be going in and out of there a few times, showing you around. In addition to that, we're going to take you into our student catalog, talk about your time limits, the handbook, different issues such as transfer credit, academic integrity. We're going to talk about how we assess your learning, how we calculate your grades, different types of assessments. And then at the end of the webinar, we're going to take you into a couple different spots like our student community, the library, the bookstore, and our career cruising website. So we have a lot of ground to cover. Again, this is for your information. So if you have any questions at any point during the webinar, type them in the question box. That's how we communicate. You do not need a microphone. Basically, the way this works, I'm going to talk and go through a PowerPoint slideshow. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. That's what it's about. Okay. In addition to that, I'm going to give you my personal email address a little bit later on, so that if you think of something after the fact, you can reach out and we'll be glad to help you out. If anybody wants a copy of the slides that I'm going to use for the slideshow, you can send me an email and I'll be glad to send it back as an attachment for the slides. Okay, so that's a little bit about what we're going to do. Also, this webinar is optional, so there's no credit given for it. Now, I know some of you may be on your lunch break, lunch hour, or you may have to stop a little later on and leave to pick up the kids from school. Whatever your situation may be, you don't need to let me know. And if you need to leave, just sign out. Okay. Like I said, there's no credit given for the webinar. If you do stick around though for the whole thing, you will find it very beneficial. Most students in the feedback that we get are enlightened tremendously after viewing the webinar. So, all right. Now that we got the introductions out of the way, I want to show you a picture of our business studies group, of which I'm a part, and this is me here in the upper left-hand corner, along with Eric, Jim, Michelle, and Russell, who's the chairman of our department. A little background on myself. I graduated from the University of Dayton with a bachelor's degree in accounting and a minor in management. Upon completing my studies, first job was as an internal auditor. I did that for a number of years, went on to be a district controller, and then eventually a regional controller. I came to Penn Foster in 2000, so I'm on my 17th year. And if you put those two together, yeah, I'm an old school old timer and probably going to retire in the next year or two. So, but the fact that I wanted to bring up here, together we have over 80 plus years of experience, which for you, that means you can call on us for our expertise and guidance whenever you need that. So don't hesitate to reach out. We'll go over all the ways you can contact us during the webinar. And that would be via phone, email, or on the student community. All right. Okay, at this juncture, I'm going to take you into that simulated student record that I mentioned earlier. So let's go ahead and do that. So for most of you, when you sign into your student record, it should look very similar to this. Okay. Now, a few of you, this is the new platform. Now, a few of you may still be on the old platform, so what you're seeing is a little different than what you're used to. But the main difference is that the tabs are vertical here, and on the old platform, they were horizontal going across the top of the page. Basically, all this information is the same, just presented a little differently. All right. Again, if you have any questions at any point, don't hesitate. We'll have a Q&A session about halfway through, and we'll also have one at the end of the presentation. Okay. If it's something I think needs to be addressed at that point, I'll go ahead and answer your question right away. Otherwise, we'll get to it either at the midpoint or at the end of the webinar. All right, so when you first sign in, you'll land on your home page, which is where we're at right here. But the other tabs you have are the programming courses, grades, billing and payments, help and support, and your resources tab. All right, so right now we're on our home tab. And if you go to the upper right-hand corner, you should have your name and your student ID number. Okay, you need to verify that. That needs to be correct. If it's not, you need to contact the school to get that corrected. All right, now the three icons up in the right-hand corner, the first one is if you have more than one account, which most of you will not, so that won't pertain to your particular record. If you do have more than one account, it just allows you to switch back and forth. The icon that looks like a bell is access to our message center. So if you click on that, right now I don't have any new messages, but if I did, there would be a number inside the bell. Red circle tells you that you have a new message or messages. Now, first off, before we get to the message center, our digital study guides and study units that you're going to see are in the Adobe format. So you need to have the Adobe Acrobat Reader loaded on your device, whether that's a smartphone, tablet, desktop, laptop, whatever you have, you need to have Adobe Acrobat Reader on it. Most new devices do. If you don't, it's an easy download. Click on the link and download it. It's a free download. All right. Assuming that that's taken care of, then our message center. And here, from time to time, we may send you messages on different items, what's going on at the school. Recently, we started a stock market game for students that want to learn more about the stock market. So, in fact, that's ongoing at the present, and it's going to, I think it's running through June the 9th. But we run a couple of those a year, so if you didn't make this one, you can check out the next one. Also, we're introducing our Career Readiness Boot Camp. If you want more information, you can click on that link. Notice, though, that the messages are supposed to expire on a certain date. You cannot delete the messages. So I'm not sure why these didn't delete off yet, but you cannot delete the messages. They'll drop off on their own. All right. And then the other icon in the upper right-hand corner that looks like an outline of a person, if you click on that, you have two choices. You can log out, or you can go into account preferences. Now, again, you want to verify all this information, your name, student ID number, what program you're in. Okay, this is a simulated record. It doesn't really exist, but it's set up as an associate's degree in business management. You'll see your enrollment date and when your program expires. Usually that's a semester time limit, and I'll get into that later on when we talk about your time constraints. All right, then in the middle of the page you should see 4 different tabs. You have your settings, billing, text alerts, and the My Goal tab. Now under settings, you have your email address, username, password, security questions, phone, and mailing address. So you want to verify all that information and make sure it is correct. If anything is not correct or should change in the future, it's an easy fix. Click on the pencil icon, make the change, and then click Save at the bottom once you make that change for it to become effective. All right. Our toll-free number within the U.S. to reach us on the phone is 888-427-1000. And I'll give that out a few times during the webinar. We also have a number if you're outside the U.S., and I'll give that later on a separate slide. All right, now under the billing tab, it's basically the same information that's under the billing and payments main tab here on the left. So if we click on that, since this record doesn't really exist, it shows as paid in full. But if you're on a payment plan, it should show you all the details on where you're at as far as your payments, etc., how much you still owe, when your next one due, and all that information. Text alerts, if you want to receive a text alert anytime a new message is sent to your message center, you can sign up here, and anytime a new message gets sent, you'll be alerted via text. And then last is the My Goal tab, and this is where you set up your goals. Now what this does is put a date next to each one of your lessons, okay? Now the dates next to your lessons are called study planner dates. Now these are not, I repeat, not concrete deadlines. They are just guides, okay? It's to try to keep you on track so that you finish your studies within the required time constraints, okay? Now there's several different paths you can choose. It's up to you whichever one you choose. And again, keep in mind, these are not cast in stone. Okay, so if you don't do an exam by a certain date, nothing happens. You don't get a 0 or an F. Okay, those are just suggested dates. So you can see there's several different plans you can choose. First one is the accelerated plan. If you choose that one, that speeds up the dates so that you can get completed your semester by a certain time, okay? The recommended is like for an average student. If you follow the recommended, you will get done within your time constraint. The extended is for those folks that maybe you're a seasonal worker and you're working a lot at the moment, and you don't have as much time to devote to your studies. You want to slow the dates down, you can do that by choosing the extended. Just keep in mind that doesn't change your overall time constraint. Okay, basically you have 1 year. If you're in a degree program, you have 1 year per semester. And I'll talk about that more when we get back to the slideshow. But basically you have 1 year. If you choose the extended, it gives you more time between the lessons, okay? But it doesn't change your overall time constraint. So, but it's there for those that want to slow down a little bit. And then when you're done, maybe you're, like I said, a seasonal worker and you're done working a lot of hours, and you go back to a more student-friendly time schedule, then you can switch this back to something else, like your accelerated or recommended. And then last is they're customized. If you want to graduate by a certain date, you can choose that, plug in the date, and it will change your lessons to get you done by that date. Again, no matter what you choose, you're not bound by it. These are just suggestions. Okay, just designed to keep you on track. Anytime you make a change, you need to click the save button to make that effective. Okay, let's go back to the home tab. Now you have several different blocks here. First of all is the course overview. So to give you an idea of where you're at in your, in this case it's a semester, okay? Show you what your current course is, what your next study unit's going to be. If you want to go back to that, click resume. Your program goal, again, is what we set up by what we just looked at. So you can track your progress to see how far along you are towards that. Next block is the upcoming courses. It tells you what courses are next in your program. The exam status block gives you how many exams you've completed, and again, when your next exam date is due based on that planner that you set up. Okay. Again, billing and payments, same basic information that we saw earlier, and you'll see that in a lot of the different tabs. You don't have to necessarily leave your current tab to access some of the other information. And then last at the bottom right here is the students in your program, and this is how you join the student community, okay, which I highly suggest that you do. I'm going to take you into the community later on, and you'll see all the benefits you can derive from becoming a student community member. It gives you access to the community. It's up to you to decide how much you want to participate or interact, but it gives you access to items such as pre-recorded videos, especially for math and accounting courses. And I'll get in there and show you what they look like later on when we get to that point. But to get access, you need to join the community. To do that, click on Join the Conversation and follow the instructions. All right, so that's everything under the Home tab. Under Program and Resources, and Courses, sorry. My course overview block, again, same thing that we looked at on the prior page. The program materials. This, first of all, there's a welcoming letter from Russell, the chairman of our department. It's a little welcoming letter. Tells you what you're going to learn, that you're online but not alone, how to check out the different groups. And this, if you click this link, it'll take you into the student community for the Bachelor, Associate's degree in Bachelor's and Business Management. Access to the student catalog, and also how to get started in your program. Okay, next up is the program outline. So since this is an associate's degree, it's a 2-year degree, there are 4 semesters in it, which you must complete all 4 to get your degree. So the first semester for most of the business associate degree courses are very similar with one exception. You're going to have business orientation for 1 credit, info literacy 1 credit, intro to business for 3, art for 3, and the math course for 3. This is where you're going to see some differences. For the most part, I think with the exception of marketing, all the other majors, you're going to get the beginning course in whatever your major is. So since this is business management, you're going to get principles of management here. If you're an accounting major, you're going to get financial accounting here instead. And then management will drop down here. Okay. Marketing a little different because principles of marketing is an upper level course, so you don't get that till later on. All right, so that's 3 credits, whatever one you have there. Notice there's 14 credits in the first semester. All right, now if we skip down to the second semester, and the way our program works is after you're done each semester, you will get a new enrollment agreement for that upcoming semester. If there are any electives in the upcoming semester, the time to make the choices is on your enrollment agreement. Notice here we have 2 electives in the second semester. We have a social science. You get to choose one of these 3, either psychology, world civ, or sociology. And you also have an art and humanities elective, either music or literature. Choose one of those, okay? No matter what you choose, it's worth 3 credits. Notice total of 18 credits in the second semester, unlike the first where there was 14. Okay, let's move down a little bit and show you semesters 3 and 4. All right, semester 3 also has a total of 18 credits. It has 1 elective, a science elective. You have to choose either bio, nutrition, or earth science. 4th semester, no electives, all core courses. Total of 15 credits. So as you can see here, not every semester has the same amount of credits. So we had 15, 18, 18, and 14. Okay. Next up, 125 resources to help students succeed. Now, what you're going to see here are 5 groups of 25. First group is to help you with time management. So some of you, maybe have a full plate. You're working, family responsibilities, civic responsibilities, maybe in clubs or, church responsibilities, whatever it is. You have a full plate along with trying to do your studies. So trying to get everything accomplished takes organization. And some of you may be more adept at that than others. For those of you that are not, there's some great resources here to help you manage your time better. Again, there are 25 listed here. Okay, so we did the groundwork for you, looked them up, and put together some great sites for you to use. Your next group of 25 are support and guidance resources for students. And again, Up to you to go in here to see what works for you, what doesn't work. Next group of 25 are motivational and inspirational tools. Because let's face it, at some point during your studies, you're going to come across a course that you're really, not too excited about. So you may need a little extra motivation to get through it. And there's some good sites there that can help you with that. The next group are financial planning resources for students. And again, there's 25 of those, some great ones there. And then the last group of 25 are school tools and supplies. Okay, so from my knowledge, I think all of these are free and it doesn't cost anything to access them. So why not take advantage of them should you need them? Don't forget about them. A lot of students forget that they're there. Okay. All right, the other item here is your courses. We're going to skip that for now. We're going to come back in here later on today and talk about that. All right, next up is our grades tab. Before I start talking about the grades, I did forget to mention one thing at the top. If we have any issues, any technical issues, maybe the webinar goes down, normally I get a couple seconds heads up that it's going to do that. So I'm aware of it. If it does, just hang in there. You don't need to do anything. Usually takes less than a minute or two to get the webinar back up and running. So should that occur, hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, just hang on and we'll get it running as soon as we can. Usually it's a quick fix. All right, our grades tab, just what you would expect. You can see a listing of all your grades. We also have a grade report so that if you're done a particular subject, you get a final grade, you'll see all of those listed and it'll give you a GPA at the end of that. Billing and payments, kind of what we looked at earlier, gives you all that information. Notice here there are some other miscellaneous payments. The one for the degree students, college students, you may need to get your study time extended, and that's a $95 fee for that, and I'll explain that when we get into the time constraints when we get back to the slideshow. Under help and support, this is where you can access our question library. Notice you'll see just questions and answers here at the moment. So you can type in your question and click search, but you'll see all of the support topics. There's a lot of questions that we put in the library, a lot of frequently asked questions that we get. So more than likely your question can be found here and answered, okay? But maybe not. So what you want to do is type in your question and hit search. Now notice we have questions and answers here only. To access our email system, you need to search for something first. All right, so maybe you have a question about your instructor. All right, if you click search, watch what happens now. There's going to be 2 additional items that you can choose from once that happens. There's the ask a question / contact us, and that's what you would hit to enter our email system. Okay, we also have a chat feature. Now the chat feature is only available for our student care, also known as student services. You hear those 2 terms, they're synonymous, they mean the same department. Those folks help you with items like your shipping and your billing, those kind of issues. Okay, so you can do an online chat with those folks. You cannot do an online chat with an instructor. Okay, you can reach us via the phone number, but you cannot do an online chat with an instructor. Okay, so say you want to send us an email. So you click on ask a question / contact us. You want to type in your subject, your question, and then try to route it to the right department. Most of the time it's going to be general support. If it's for an instructor, it would be instructional support. It's about your billing, that would be financial support. So say you have a question about your studies. So you click on instructional support. There's also a sub-menu here. Try to do the best you can with this. It's not critical, but it helps the email system route it to the right instructor. So maybe you have a question about your exams. And maybe you need to upload a document. to send it for us to look at. So if you do, click on Browse, go find it on your computer, then click on it, and it'll attach it, and then click Continue, and it'll send us an email. Now you should expect a response within 24 hours if it's during the week, from Monday 9 a.m. until Friday 6 p.m. I mean, if you send something late Friday afternoon, more than likely you're not going to get an answer right away, okay? But if it's during that time, you should expect a response within 24 hours. Anytime after 6 p.m. Eastern time, Friday night, until 9 a.m. Monday, we're not here, okay? Now, some instructors do take their laptops home, and you may possibly get an answer over the weekend, but don't count on that, okay? That may happen on occasion. All right, next up is the Resource tab. So we're going to skip some of this now because we're going to come back and do a lot of it later, like the community, library, career services, etc. For right now, I want to just show you that there are several videos that you can take a look at. Most of these are short and sweet. Like there's a little welcoming video to Penn Foster. There's one here on how to navigate the portal, how to manage your learning, how to take exams, how to get help, and also our new library. And I would suggest you take a look at this. It gives you a little tutorial about our new library that we just opened up about 2 weeks ago now. So a lot of good uses and good resources in our student library. All right, so at this point, we'll come back and we will do these other items later on. Right now, I want to go into the catalog and forms, because there's a couple forms here you may need to be, definitely one that you're going to need right away, and that one is the proof of high school. So the proof of high school form needs to be completed and sent back by the end of your third course. For most of you, that's going to be the introduction to business. Once you reach the end of the intro to business and this is not satisfied, you won't be allowed to continue. The computer will shut you off. So my advice is to get it out of the way. It's very simple. Okay, you do not need a transcript from your old high school. You need to download this form and fill it out and send it back one of the 3 ways listed at the bottom. So you put your name, your Penn Foster ID number, if you've completed the high school, traditional brick and mortar school, or Penn Foster High School, click the box here and fill in that information. If you've gotten your one of these high school equivalency exams, if you've done that and gotten that, check whichever one you did and the date of that. And if you were homeschooled, then you need to put in the date of your homeschool graduation. And then your name as it appears on either your diploma or exam credential. Then you need to sign it and date it, and you can either mail it, fax it, or email it. Okay, so it's 3 ways to get it back to us. Pretty simple. You do not need your transcript from your old high school. So, and this needs to be done even if you graduated from Penn Foster High School. My advice, get it out of the way so you're not held up down the road. It's pretty simple. Any questions about it should be directed to student care or student services. They're the folks that handle that. Next up is the privacy release form, and it's the same concept basically as your high school completion form. This is for people that need to have third-party access to their information, whether it's a parent, guardian, spouse. In order for us to release any information to them or to talk to them, we need to have this on file. So if you think you're going to be in that situation down the road, I would go ahead and get this filled out and sent in so that we can release that information should we need to do that. And then you can check out our accreditations here at the bottom. All right, so we're going to go back up and go into our degree catalog at this point. This is set up by the date of your enrollment. I'm assuming for today's presentation, everybody's enrolled on or after September 8th of last year. So we click on that and it'll give you access to the current version of the student catalog. All right, now we don't have time to go through the whole catalog. A lot of information here, particularly the student code of conduct. So all the policies and procedures that you're bound by are listed in the student handbook. So you want to make time to go through it, read it, and understand it. Not knowing is not an excuse, okay? By the way, you will not, I repeat, not get a physical copy of this. It's provided here digitally. So that's where I was under resources, and it's under student catalog. Okay, so that's how we got there. So you're expected to access it, read it, and understand it. Any questions regarding it, contact the school, and we'll be glad to cover it with you. All right, first thing I want to talk about is a little bit about the history of Penn Foster. We were founded in 1890 by a local newspaper editor in the area named Thomas Foster, and now part of our school name comes from his last name. Original name of our school is International Correspondence Schools, or ICS for short, and we were known by that name for over 100 of those years. So we're on our 127th year this year. By the way, less than 1% of the companies in the United States can say that they've been in business that long. So we're rather proud of that. Original premise of our school being founded was to help the local coal miners in the area better educate themselves. They were having safety issues in the mines. Mr. Foster developed the correspondence method of education to help those folks out. Now we're a totally online school, and we consist of 3 different academies. We have our high school, our career school, and our college. All right. Next item I want to talk about are the minimum QAA requirements you need to meet in order to successfully complete your studies. All right, and this is based on the 4.0 scale. And for those of you not familiar with the 4.0 scale, if you get an A, it's worth 4 points. A B is 3, and a C is 2. We no longer have D's. F's are 0. No credit for F's. Which means if you pass a course, you're going to pass with a minimum grade of a C or higher. All right. So based on this 4.0 scale, for those of you in the associates program, at the end of semester 1, your cumulative QAA must be at least a 1.6. Okay. That means all your courses get averaged together. That point total must be at least 1.6 in order for you to be able to progress on to the second semester. At the end of semester 2, that goes up to 1.8, again cumulative, so that would include both semesters. And for semesters 3 and 4, it has to be a 2.0. So in other words, you need at least a C average to get your degree. For those of you in the bachelor's program, very similar to 1.6 for semesters 1 through 5. Starting with semester 6, that goes up to 1.8, and for semester 7 and 8, to get your bachelor's degree, it also has to be at least a 2.0. All right, I'm going to skip down now, and actually we're going to talk about challenge exams. For 2 of our courses, we have what's called a challenge exam. And if you take the challenge exam and you pass, which means you get a grade of 75% or higher on the test, that means you get transfer credit for that course and you don't have to take it. And those 2 courses are computer applications and English composition. Okay? You cannot challenge either one or both until you get to the semester they're located in. So for example, if English Comp is not until the second semester, you can't take the challenge exam for that until you get to the second semester. If you take the challenge exam and don't pass, that means that you just have to take the course. So basically it's no harm, no foul. If you pass, great, you get transfer credit, you move on. You don't pass, then you just have to take the course. Okay. Next up, skip down a few pages, is the academic integrity issues. We're going to actually skip this for now, but I want to point this out because this is where our student code of conduct is located. And we talk about academic dishonesty, plagiarism, your online behavior, copyright notices, and any disciplinary action that can be bestowed upon you should those policies be violated. Next up is our grading scale. And by the way, we're going to cover the integrity issues in more detail when we get back to the slideshow. So as of May 1st of 2012, which is actually 5 years ago now, we went to our current grade scale. So currently, to get an A, you have to have between a 90 and 100%. An 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is C. Anything less than 70 is failing. So the question may come up then, what happens if I fail a course? Then you have basically two options. One is you can take what's called a replacement course with us, and basically repeat the course. Keep the same textbook, you'll be sent a new set of exams. The other option would be to take another course, similar course at a school, another school, and which would have to be approved by us ahead of time. You would need to earn a grade of C or higher, and then transfer the grade into Penn Foster. Other grades you might see, an I is incomplete, means you've not met all the requirements for that particular course. Some assessments are graded pass-fail, so you'll either get a P or an F. Those assessments are discussion boards and webinars. Okay. Now, when they're graded pass-fail, they don't impact your numerical percentage grade. Okay. They're required in order for you to get credit for the course. All right. If you fail one of those assessments, you have to go back and repeat it until you do pass. Okay, next up, proctored exams. We're going to skip that for now. We're going to talk about that in much more detail later on. Webinars, same thing. Talk about webinars a little bit later on as well. Dean's List is next up. To be on our Dean's List, you must accomplish 3 things. You have to have at least 9 credits worth of work, achieve a 3.4 or higher GPA based on the 4.0 scale I was just referring to. And then they also must provide us written permission to publish your name on the Dean's List. So in order to be on it, you need to do those 3 things. We put a new Dean's List out every quarter. So every 3 months, a new one comes out. The registrar department is responsible for compiling that. So any questions about it should be directed to the registrar department. Okay. Next up, we're going to skip down a few pages and talk about the honors that you can earn for your degrees. Now, this is only for associate and bachelor's degrees. Certificates are not included under this. All right, if you complete your degree, so if it's an associate's degree, it's 4 semesters, bachelor's, 8 semesters. If your overall QPA is between a 3.4 and a 3.6, your degree will be designated cum laude. That means you graduated with honors. If it's between 3.6 and 3.8, it's designated magna cum laude, and that means more honors. 3.8 or higher is summa cum laude, and that means you graduated with the most honors possible. Okay, so if you're able to achieve those type of grades, you'll get the honors that come with that. And those honors will appear right on your degree. It'll have your name, what your program was, and which one of these 3 designations you were able to achieve. All right, one last thing in the handbook, and this is located near the back. I think it's like on page 73 or 4. We have individual course descriptions for every one of our courses. And this is alphabetical by the degrees. All right, first up, we have the course number, the name, the credit value, a little synopsis of what's covered in the course, and whether or not there's any prerequisites to take it. So you'll see here financial accounting is worth 3 credits, ACC 111, Tells you what's covered. There are no prerequisites to take it. If we skip down to managerial accounting, ACC 112, also 3 credits. What's covered here? Notice there is a prerequisite. You must have satisfactorily completed financial accounting first before you're allowed to take managerial accounting. The reason for that is what you're taught here, you build on in managerial accounting. So if you don't have those basic fundamentals, you will struggle mightily, if not fail, managerial. Okay, so that's why we have courses with prerequisites. All right, so we're gonna head back to our PowerPoint at this juncture. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, before I continue, for those of you, I know some of you signed off or signed on after we got started, and that's okay. The slideshow that I'm using, if anybody wants a copy of the slides, you can send me an email. I'll be giving my email address here in the next few minutes when we go to our break. So if you want a copy of the slides, you can send me an email. And the way this works, if you have any questions, you type them in the question box. Okay? So for anybody that just signed on. All right. So we just looked at our student handbook. Let's talk about some time constraints. First of all, you're under 2 time constraints at Penn Foster. First of all, you have a semester time limit, and that limit is 12 months. In other words, you have 1 year to complete a semester, no matter how many credits there are in the semester. Like we saw in the Associate's Business Management, first semester at 14 credits. Second and third at 18 apiece, and the fourth had 15. It does not matter how many credits there are. You have 1 year to finish it from the date of your enrollment. Now, what happens if you're unable to finish in the 1 year? Then you are allowed a total of 4 paid 6-month extensions, okay, in order to help you complete your studies. And like we saw on that little notice earlier, it's a $95 fee for a 6-month extension. Okay, so you're allowed a total of 4 over your program. Now, associate's degree students, you're allowed 6 years to complete your program. So what that equates to is you have 6 years to finish 4 semesters. Bachelor candidates, you have 8 years to finish your 8 semesters. All right, so the next question might be, what happens if I don't finish in the 6 or 8 years? So maybe you're a bachelor student and you get 7 semesters done in 8 years. So you still have that last semester to go. So what you would do in that case, you would re-enroll into the current program that was in place at that point. All right. Now, what that does is if any courses have been added to your program since you first began, you would have to take that new course that's been added. Okay. So, but the way it works, you get transfer credit for everything you successfully completed, and you basically pick up from where you left off. So in that case, in that example I just gave you, we completed 7 semesters. We would have to do the 8 semesters plus any other courses that have been added. No courses have been added. It would just be whatever's in the 8th semester then. Okay. But what it does is set back this overall 8 years. It sets that back to 0. Okay. Our accrediting bodies have those time constraints on us, so that's why they're there. So those are your time constraints. And like we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the study planner, you're going to see dates next to each one of your lessons. Again, they are not concrete deadlines, okay? They're just suggested dates so that you complete your semesters on time. They're just guides. The 2 things you need to be concerned with your semester time limit of 1 year, and overall program time limit of either 6 or 8 years, depending on what program you're in. Now, one great feature of our program is there are no minimum times. So if you're a full-time student and you have, all your time being able to devote to your studies, obviously you're going to get done quicker than somebody that's working and other responsibilities that doesn't have as much time to devote to their studies. So what that means is even though you have a year to finish your semester, maybe you get done in 6 months, okay? You don't have to wait until the next 6 months is over to go on to your next semester. All right. You can enroll immediately right away once your last grades are posted, and assuming you pass everything in the semester, you can go right away to your next semester. You'll get a new enrollment agreement, sign that, and get started right away. You don't have to wait. Okay. Now the way it works with your payments, maybe you're done your studies, but you're still on your payment plan. What will happen there is they'll roll over any monies that are still owed onto your next agreement. Okay. Just keep in mind your tuition has to be paid in full before your diploma is sent out to you. Okay. So that's how that works. But you're not held up. You don't have to wait for the fall semester, summer, spring, whatever it happens to be, like a brick and mortar school. You can get started right away. All right, next topic is transfer credit. So a lot of you may have taken courses at other schools. And if so, you may be eligible for transfer credit. So the first thing I want to emphasize here, unlike the proof of high school where you just needed to download that form and send it in, here we do need an official transcript from the other school. So what you want to do is contact them and tell them you need a transcript sent to Penn Foster. And this is the address you want to have it sent to. It's Penn Foster at 925 Oak Street, Scranton, PA 18515. Okay. So you need to contact them, let them know that you need a transcript sent to Penn Foster, and give them our address. Okay. The transcript must come in an envelope from the other school, directly from the other school. It does not go to you and then us, comes directly from the other school. If it does not come in an envelope from the other school, you just wasted your time. It's null and void. Okay? Has to come directly from the other school in an envelope from the other school. All right. Now, what do we look for when we're evaluating transcripts? First of all, the registrar department are the folks that evaluate the transcripts when they come in. Okay, so they get sent to them. So when they're evaluating the transcripts, first thing they look for is a grade. And it has to be a C or higher. C, C plus, any type of B or A. C minus does not count. If you have a C minus, you will not get transfer credit. Okay, or obviously any D's or F's. So it has to be C, C plus, or higher to be considered for transfer credit. Also, if you're trying to get credit for a core business course, for example, say trying to get credit for Intro to Business, it has to be a similar Introduction to Business course. Okay, you can't get credit for Intro to Business with like a literature course. Okay, it's not the same content. Now, when it comes to the electives, there's more leeway. Okay, so we would take, like literature or music or art, depending on which one you took. But for your core business course, it has to match up. Grade of C or higher, and the credit value must be the same or higher. So if ours is a 3-credit course, the other course you took must be 3 or more credits as well. Okay. Also, you want to try to get your transcripts in as soon as possible, because any course that's already been shipped out to you will not qualify for transfer credit. So in order to maximize your credit, especially early in the first semester, get the transcripts in as soon as possible. Also, I want to make you aware that we are a member of ACE, and ACE stands for the American Council on Education. Now, why that is important to you is because they are a third-party college credit recommendation service. They're like an auditor for colleges. They come in, all of our courses get evaluated at least once every 5 years. Basically, 20% every year get evaluated. So on an ongoing basis. They come in, they look at the course, textbook, relevancy, currency, does it cover the topics it should, all that kind of good stuff. So, but why that's important to you is because ACE puts out a manual every year, and they give recommendations on courses. And most schools use the ACE manual when they're evaluating transcripts from other schools. Okay, so if you're having issues getting your credits transferred to another school, let them know we're a member of ACE, and that usually clears up a lot of confusion. We also accept non-traditional education experiences such as military service. So if any of you have served in the military, you can send in your transcripts for possible credit as well. All right, just a quick heads up here. In about 5 minutes, we're going to take our short 2-minute break, 3-minute break. And so if anybody has any questions, please type them in, and we'll get to them when we come back out of break. All right, now I showed you in the handbook where we talked about the integrity issues. Just want to cover this in more detail at this point. So Penn Foster has adopted a student code of conduct in order to protect the rights of students, faculty, staff, and Penn Foster itself. And this code ensures that the student-faculty interactions are characterized by mutual respect and civility. All students are required to abide by the standards and policies established by the school in both your academic work and your personal conduct. Again, consult the handbook for more information. All right, just want to elaborate on this a little bit. Now, as a student, you should expect a great deal of professionalism and decorum from everyone at Penn Foster. Not just instructors, but anybody you come in contact with, whether it's student care, student services, admissions, the registrar, financial, anybody. There's no reason for anybody to treat you other than that way. Likewise, we expect that from our students. All right, now, a very small majority of students, there's always a few bad apples in the bunch, but because we're an online school and we're not in each other's physical presence on a regular basis, they tend to think that that gives them the liberty to treat people uncivilly. And I want to assure you that's not the case, okay? Particularly when it comes to your grades. So if you get a grade on an assignment and you think your answers deserve more credit than they were given, first thing I would do is pick up the phone, call the school, and speak to your instructor. Now, before you do that, make sure you have some research done. You back up your argument. Why do you think your answers deserve more credit? Okay. Always glad to hear from students. We're human beings. Sometimes we miss things. And I've changed grades in the past where, missed something. Fine. All right. There's also been times when students have argued and couldn't get there as far as giving them more credit. And, that happens. So, but the way you go about it is what I'm getting at here. The way you want to handle it is, like I said, pick up the phone, support your argument, okay? Why does your answer deserve more credit? What you don't want to do is call up screaming and yelling, my answer's right, change my grade, or fire off a nasty email with the same content, all right? First of all, it's not going to get you very far, all right? That's not the way you want to approach it. So just keep that in mind whenever you're contacting the school. All right, next up is plagiarism. Most of you know what plagiarism is, but for those that may not know, You're going to be taught this in your second course. Information literacy is going to cover this in great detail. So not knowing will not be an excuse after that. Okay? So if you plagiarize, whether knowingly or not knowingly, it's still plagiarism. Okay? So, and there's consequences that occur when that happens. So plagiarism is defined as dishonestly using another person's ideas or finished work as your own, and here's the most important part of it, without giving credit for the source. This includes copying, paraphrasing something, and using it as if you'd done the work yourself. Acts of plagiarism are not tolerated from students at Penn Foster. Those who submit plagiarized work will be disciplined. Possible measures may include up to expulsion. Now, it's okay to use somebody else's ideas as long as you give them the credit for it. Okay? So, and there's proper ways to do that, mainly through citations. Okay? And you're going to be taught that in information literacy. I think most of you know already about it, but if you don't, you're going to be taught it in information literacy. So if you do use somebody else's work, make sure you cite the source. Okay? If you don't cite it, that's plagiarism, whether you intended to or not. For me, all the integrity issues are pretty simple. Best way to avoid them, do your own work. If you do that, you won't have an issue. Now, one quote that I like to use talking about these integrity issues is, if you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to have time to do it over? Every piece, anything that's sent to the school, whether it's a research paper, an English assignment, or even any type of final exam, whether it's accounting or marketing, whatever it is, it gets checked for plagiarism. And usually it's very easy to detect. So if you think that you're better than everybody else, that the rules don't apply to you, I just want to warn you right now, they do. It's not fair to everybody else that puts in the hard work to let somebody skate by with plagiarism. So we take it very seriously, and if you go down that road, be prepared to suffer the consequences. The other integrity issue is collaboration, and this is cheating defined as inappropriate activity in which the work submitted to the school does not represent the work of the enrolled student. This includes submission of somebody else's work, answers obtained through inappropriate measures, or providing answers to another student. If you are suspected of cheating, you are notified and required to respond in writing to the charges made, and those responses go before the Academic Standards Committee for a decision on your enrollment. Again, disciplinary action can be applied up, including termination. By the way, I'm a member of the Academic Standards Committee and have been for the last 10 plus years. And it's unfortunate that students put themselves in that position in the first place. Again, this is for a relatively very minor percentage of our students. Most of our students are great, do the work, and they get the results. Okay, it's for those that try to shortcut it that this situation occurs. So it's not a place you want to be in front of the Academic Standards Committee. Okay. Before a case gets to us, it's very well vetted, and there's usually a mountain of evidence against you. So don't put yourself in that position to begin with. Okay, that brings us to our break point. Before I do go on break, though, I do want to give you my personal email address. I know some of you may have to leave. It's robert.messina@pennfoster.edu. Okay, I'll leave that up during the break. So if you want to copy the slides that I'm using, or if you have any questions, you think of something after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out. Always like hearing from students. Okay. All right. Now, for those of you that weren't signed on early, I played a little 3-minute video of all of our accomplishments the past year or so. So I'm going to go ahead and play that again. It's about 3 minutes. There's no sound that's with it, but you can look at the pictures. When that's over, I'll come back. We'll get answer any questions that have come in, and then we'll get started on the second half of the presentation. Okay, we're back from break. Looks like we have a rather shy bunch today. Nobody's asking any questions. So let's get started with the second half here. All right, first thing we want to take a look at is how we assess your learning. We do that mainly through the exam process, but we also have creative projects, discussion boards, and webinars, also known as class participation. All right, now on the next screen that we're going to take a look at after this, we're going to show you how we calculate your grades. And when you see that slide, you're going to see that your grade is weighted. It's a 2/3, 1/3 weighting. 2/3 of your grade is going to come from this first type of assessment, your randomized multiple choice tests. If a course also has a graded project, this will get included here as well. Okay. The other third of your, let me cut this off here, grade's going to come from either a proctored or final exam. You will have one or the other. You'll never have both. It'll be one or the other for most of your courses. All right, so it's a 2/3, 1/3 weighting. The discussion boards and webinars are pass-fail. They do not count towards your numerical grade. Okay, and eventually your letter grade. They're required that you pass them in order to get credit for the course, but they don't count toward the grade calculation. All right, so let's talk about this first assessment, randomized multiple choice test. So your first 3 courses, your business orientation, information literacy, and your introduction to business courses, those are all online. They're digital study units, okay? You will not get any textbooks with those courses. But beginning with your 4th course, depending on what program you're in, but beginning with the 4th course, you will start getting physical textbooks in the mail, okay? And when you see that, when you get to that point, you will have a study guide along with your textbook. Now, your study guide is just exactly that. It's your guide through the course. Gives you a little bit idea what you're going to be studying, tells you what textbook edition you should have, tells you what to read in the textbook and what to do in the study guide. You know, there's self-checks in there, etc. But it'll tell you maybe to read the first 2 or 3 chapters. When you're done the 3rd, then you're ready to go take your test. So then you go click on the Take Exam button on your student portal, and probably 85% of the time you're going to get a 20-question multiple choice test. The other 15%, you're going to get as many as maybe 25 or 30 questions. But for the most part, it's 20 multiple choice questions. Now, the randomization comes in because each exam has a pool of questions for it. So even though you only be seeing 20 questions, that's coming from a much larger pool of, in most cases, it's at least 3 times as many questions. So there could be at least 60 questions in the pool. So when you click on the Take Exam button, the computer randomly grabs 20 questions from the pool and puts together a test for you. All right, that's designed to cut down on cheating. So not everybody gets the same questions. It's the same content that's covered, but not the same questions. Okay, so that's where the randomization comes in. Next up, proctored and final exams. We're going to talk about proctored exams in a lot more detail in about 2 or 3 slides. All right, but for right now, there are 2 differences between a proctored and a final exam. All right, and those differences are a proctored exam is given and taken in somebody else's presence, somebody called a proctor. They watch you take the test. All right. Now also a proctored exam is timed. You have 1 hour to take the test. A final exam is not proctored and no time limit. So those are the 2 differences between the 2. But they are either one, they're both worth 33% of your grade, 1/3 of your grade. Graded projects, certain courses you're going to have projects, you're going to be asked to do some research on a topic or subject and put together some thoughts and put together a paper and have it sent in. Okay. Discussion boards, I'll take you into a discussion board here in a little while. It's where there's a topic, you have to answer some questions or give your opinion on some items. And then last is the webinars, also known as class participation, basically what we're doing right now, and we'll talk about how those get graded. Okay, so how do we calculate your grades? In this particular scenario, this course had 4 of the randomized multiple choice tests, and it had 1 proctor or final. Doesn't matter what it was. Okay. So in this case, on those 4 multiple choice tests that we took, we got a 94, an 86, an 84, and a 92. That adds up to 356. We divide by the number of exams. That gives you an 89 average for those 4 lessons. Now here's where the weighting comes in. We take that 89 average, multiply it by 2/3 decimal equivalent, 0.667, and that gives you the 5936. So that's one part of your grade. The other part comes from your proctor or final exam grade. And in this case, we scored a 94. Whichever we took, we got a 94. So then we multiply that 94 by the other 1/3 decimal equivalent, 0.333. That gives us 3130 when we do the math on that. So now we need to add those two together, the 5936 and the 3130. And when you do that, that gives you a total now of 90.66. In our system, anything that's 0.5 or higher gets rounded up to the next whole number. If this was 0.49 or lower, it would get rounded down. So anything 0.5 or higher is up, 0.49 or lower is down. So in this instance, this grade would have gotten rounded up to a 91, and like we saw earlier on our grading scale, 90 to 100 is an A. All right. Keep in mind, on your transcript, all it shows is the letter grade of an A. Numerical percentage does not show. The letter grade is the only thing that shows. And we don't have pluses or minuses. It's just an A, B, C, or an F. That's what you're going to see. All right. Next subject is proctored exams. Now, before we talk about proctored exams and what they are, there's advantages and disadvantages. There's two ways to take a proctored exam. You can either do it on paper or on the computer, which is what we call a remote exam. Okay? So, two ways to do it. Now, there's pluses and minuses to doing it each way. So what you're going to see as the pluses for paper are the minuses for remote, and vice versa. So if you choose to do it on paper, and we're going to go through all the scenarios here in a little bit. If you choose to do it on paper, there's no charge to do it. And there's no typing. You write out your answers on paper, just like you would do, like you've done throughout most of your life. All right. And notice the cons for doing it remotely. There is a fee to do it on remote exam. It's $10 per exam. And the other thing is you need to be a good typer if you want to take it out remotely. Because remember, it's timed. So instead of writing out your answers, you're typing them. And if you're not a good typer, at least average or above, I wouldn't recommend you doing it remotely. Because these type of tests that you're going to be taking are short answer and essay type questions. So you're going to be doing a lot of writing. These are not multiple choice where you just click the box. Okay, so that's why it's important. I've seen people do it remotely, and I could tell they're not a great typer, and so they didn't answer all the questions. So they lost a lot of points because of their typing skills. Okay. So now let's take a look at the downsides of doing it on paper. The downside is you have to wait until the end of the semester to do any proctored exam, any and all. So if, say, your first course in the semester has a proctored exam and you choose to do it on paper, well, you don't do it at the end of that course. You have to wait till all your courses in the semester are finished before you do any proctored exams in that semester. So what that means is that you could be doing the course right now, and if you're under the 1-year semester, say it takes you the 1 year to finish. Well, you could be taking a proctored exam, say, like next April. So that means you got to go back and restudy the material. Okay? So it's not necessarily fresh in your mind. So that could be a downside. The other downside is, and that's not necessarily a downside, but you need to get a proctor. And I'll explain what that is in a little bit. but you have to get a proctor. Now, the good things to do it remotely is you can take it right away. So in that scenario I just talked about, where it was the first course in the first semester, when you get to the proctored exam for that first course, you can take it right away if you do it remotely. So that way you don't have to worry about going back and studying for material that you had like a year ago or 9 months ago. The other advantage of doing it remotely is you don't need to get a proctor. The reason for that, if you take it remotely on the computer, your computer needs to have a webcam. Okay, your computer needs to meet certain specifications for you to be allowed to do it remotely. One of those is you have to have a webcam. So instead of somebody standing there and watching this, somebody watches you through the webcam take the test. Okay. So these are all the pros and cons of doing it either way. All right, let's talk about what the requirements are to do it remotely. Okay. So if you want to be eligible to do it on the computer, your computer must meet, now it needs to be a laptop or desktop. You cannot do this on a smartphone or tablet. Okay, you need Adobe Flash Player, which is an easy down. That's a free download, so that's usually not an issue. But you do need to have a webcam, and you also need a microphone. Okay, you also need a broadband connection. You can't do this on dial-up. It's got to be a little high speed, like a cable connection. And then you have one of these, depending on if you have a Mac or a Windows PC. You have to have Vista or higher on a Windows, or a Mac with 10.8 or higher. All right, so you need to have all of these items. In this case, you just need one of these two, depending on which system you're running. But you need the high-speed cable connection, microphone, webcam, and Adobe Flash Player. If you don't have, if one of those is missing, you cannot do it remotely. All right. All right, so let's go back and talk about the paper exams. All right, first of all, too, for the proctored exams, these are open book, okay? So you have access to your textbook and or any notes, no matter if you're doing it remotely or on paper. It's the same, okay? Now, and if you're doing a math test, you are allowed to use a calculator, okay? What you're not allowed to do, whether it's paper or remote, you're not allowed to access the internet. So you can't Google anything. If you do it remotely, it's recorded and they'll see that. So if you do that, you just disqualified yourself from the test. So you're not allowed to go out on the internet to search for answers. You're allowed to look through your textbook and or your notes, but you're not allowed to access the internet either way, whether it's on doing a paper or a remote exam. Again, you are allowed to use a calculator. Okay. So if you choose to do it on paper, you need to get a proctor. So what are the requirements for somebody to be your proctor? They're listed here at the bottom. First of all, they cannot be related to you in any fashion. So that eliminates, brothers and sisters, parents, grandparents, godparents, in-laws, aunts, uncles, cousins. So no blood relationship. They cannot be related to you in any manner. The other requirement is that they must have at least a 2-year degree in some area. It doesn't matter what their degree is in. So it does not have to be business. Could be anything. So it has to be at least an associate's degree or higher. Could be a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate. All right, and as long as they're not related to you, they can be your proctor. So I would start thinking about how you want to do it, and I'd say maybe about halfway through the semester, If you're going to do it on paper, then there's a form that you need to get your proctor approved. And I'll show you when we go back to the courses page where that is. All right. If you're doing it remotely, you don't need to worry about getting a proctor. Okay. So that's proctored exams. Now, if you do it on paper, the process is closely monitored. Now, the way it works is you have to wait to the end of the semester to take any proctored exams. So when you're done everything else, all your webinars, discussions, multiple choice tests, projects, everything else has to be done in all the courses before you're eligible to take any proctored exams on paper. Okay. So everything has to be done. When that's ready and your proctor's approved, the proctored exams get mailed to your proctor. You arrange for a time and date to sit and take the exam. I think you have like 2 or 3 weeks to do that. On the date of the test, you need to bring a picture ID, prove who you are. And when you're ready, the proctor will hand you the first test. You have 1 hour to complete it. At the end of the hour, they take the exam from you, whether you're completed or not. All right, so judicious use of your time is important when you're taking the proctored exams. You don't want to be wasting a whole lot of time on 1 or 2 questions. All right, so when the last exam is taken, the exam's given back to the proctor, and the proctor mails it back to us. Not you, they do. Now, all procedures must be strictly adhered to. Any instances of inappropriate action on part of the student or proctor could result in an invalid exam. If your exam is invalidated, you're required to take an alternate. Highest grade you can get on the alternate is 70%. So there's a penalty if the policies aren't adhered to. You're only mailed the grade results. You do not get the actual exams back. And if you want, you can call in, speak to an instructor. We'll be glad to go over the exam with you. Okay. That brings us to webinars. And the main thing I want to emphasize here is that all the webinars you're going to attend, just like today, it's going to be listed as Eastern U.S. time. So if you live in a different time zone, you need to adjust for that. If you're in the Central U.S. time zone, you subtract 1 hour from the time listed. Those of you in the Mountain Zone, you subtract 2, Pacific 3. Okay. If you're in another time zone throughout the world, you need to adjust to the Eastern U.S. time zone. When you sign up for a webinar, there will be a little link there showing my time zone. You click on that, it'll tell you what time you need to sign in your time zone. Also, the email, the registration email you get will show what time to sign in as well. All right, so at this juncture, I want to head back to the student record that we have set up. And now this time, we're into the courses. We're in program and courses. And we're now down in the course section. So first of all, in the orientation course, you have 2 lessons basically. You're starting your program and your life is your business. The starting your program is you're just verifying that you went through and read the information. Your life is your business is the only exam that's going to count towards your grade, which means you need to do well on that. You need to score 70 or higher to pass. If you score less than 70 on your first attempt, then you're eligible to do retest. And I'll talk about retest when we go back out to the PowerPoint. All right, so it's important that you pass this exam because it's the only grade that you're going to get for that course. If you fail it on both attempts, then you need to take a special proctored exam for that. Okay, so take your time, do a good job on that first lesson. All right, information literacy is your next course. Here you'll see that there is an optional webinar. If it says optional, you're not required to attend. Okay. Obviously, if you want more information about the course, you can, but it's not required. Okay, and you'll see this course also has some discussion boards. Third course, Intro to Business. This is the first course that you're going to have a required webinar. Notice the first item here says required webinar. My advice, don't do the webinar right away. I would go down and do your first lesson here. You know, take the test. I would go down, I would do a few lessons and then come back and do the webinar because it'll give you more. If you don't know anything about Intro to Business, then get some knowledge under your belt and then come back and do the webinar. I think it's you'll be better prepared and better understand it once you're doing it. All right. Now, when you're ready to take the webinar, go over here to the webinar button and click on that. Gives you access to the schedule. Now, they do these on Sunday evenings. So if we click on the registration link, you'll see that the next one is next Sunday, June the 4th. Not this coming Sunday, which is Memorial Day weekend. So they're not doing one because of the holiday. If you click on the drop down, you'll see if there's other ones, and there is June 11th as well. But notice it's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. This will always be Eastern Time. So if you're not sure what time it is to sign in your time zone, click on Show in My Time Zone right here. And then you need to complete the registration. Fill in your name, address, city, and state, and your student number. Make sure your email address is correct, because the registration link that's going to come to you, the email that you need to click on to get into the webinar, is going to be sent here. If this email address is incorrect, you're not going to get it. So make sure that's right when you're filling this out. All right. Now, also in this course, you'll see those exam dates that I was referring to earlier, these what we call study planner dates. Now, you'll see that the webinar requirement is May 30th for this particular course. I don't need to do it by September 30th, okay? Again, these are suggested dates. They're not concrete deadlines. So if I don't do it by that date, nothing happens. Keep in mind, you're under the 1-year time constraint per semester. That's what you need to worry about, okay? If you follow these dates, depending on how you set it up, then you'll get done within that 1-year time constraint. If you need to change these for some reason, you click on the calendar and then click on the date you want to change it to, and then this will recalculate and all the other dates will change as well. This course also has discussion boards. So Business 101 Discussion Board 1. When I'm ready to do that, click on it. Now, the first time you click on a discussion board, you will not get to the board directly. You will need to create a user ID and password. When you're creating your ID, do not, I repeat, do not use your real name. Use some kind of variation, nickname, or whatever you go by. Don't use your real name. Okay, people are going to see that on the board. So you don't want your real name out there. Okay, not that we've never had a problem with that, but you don't want your real name out there. All right, this particular discussion board is a case study in the Polaroid company. All right, now it tells you to click on these links. There's 2 articles for you to read, and then there's 3 case study questions that you need to answer. You know, what caused their downfall? Do you think that will be successful now? And if so or not, why? And then would you buy any of their current products? Why or why not? All right. So under subject, you want to type in Polaroid. And under enter text, this is where you write your answers. Now, text does not mean you're texting your answers. Okay, this isn't Twitter where you abbreviate and you have 140 characters. You need to write in complete sentences and check for proper grammar, spelling, and punctuation. Okay. So again, it's not texting. Use proper grammar, spelling, and punctuation. Now, if you misspell a word, we're not going to come after you, okay? But if there's a lot of misspellings and you're not using periods properly or commas and it's just a bunch of garble, then they're going to reject it and have you do it again. So again, do it right the first time. Now, the way these get graded, as soon as you post something, you're automatically given a P grade. All right. Now, that may not be your final grade because the boards get monitored. Okay. So if you came in here and you posted yesterday's baseball score, for example, you will initially get a P grade by the computer. But when the monitor comes through and they see that, they'll remove your P grade, give you an F, and you have to come back and redo it. So once again, do it right the first time. You don't have to worry about it. All right. Now, some boards are going to tell you that once you post, comment on one of the other classmates' posts. Okay. Some will say you need to. Some will say, like here, take the time and respond. Okay. Some of them have minimum and maximum words too. If you don't see anything, you don't need to worry about it. Just answer the questions. Okay, so that's discussion boards. All right, next up, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit, and we're going down to the last course in the semester, and that's Math for Business and Finance. Now, this is the only course in the first semester in this associate's degree that has a proctored exam. Okay, it's the very last thing here. If we click on the Take Exam button, it's not going to take you to the exam. It's going to give you more information about it. Okay, and we already went over all this information. What it is, how you take it, the requirements, again, if you want to do it remotely. Okay, so they're all listed there. And if you're doing it remotely, you need to opt in. You need to click this button. And again, there is a $10 fee to do that. Now, we have a proctored exam instruction booklet that you should take a look at. The reason for that is because they give you some sample questions and answers. The format for these tests are much different. They're short answer and essay type questions. So you're not going to be done these exams in 15 minutes. You're going to need the full hour in most cases. So this gives you some sample questions and possible answers that you could write for those questions. Typical proctored exam, what the format is. Okay. Highly advise you to take a look at it and read it before you attempt any proctors the first time. It will help you. All right, so say that you decide you want to take it on paper. That means you need to get a proctor approved. So the first time you're getting a proctor approved, and it may be the only time you need to, because you can keep the same proctor as long as you need it and as long as all the procedures are followed properly. And you click on the proctor acceptance form, download it, fill it out, and send it back. It's kind of like the proof of high school form. Now, say you get a proctor and you have it approved, and maybe circumstances change. Maybe you move, they move. You need to get a new proctor for whatever reason. The second time you're getting a proctor, you want to change your proctor selection form. Okay. All right. So we're going to head back out to the PowerPoint. And now let's talk about proctored exams. I'm sorry, retake exams. So our retake policy is that you're only eligible to retake an exam if you fail on the first attempt. So for us, that would mean anything less than 70%. So you have to score less than 70 to be eligible to retake it. If you score 70 or higher, that's it. That's your final grade for that lesson. All right, so say you score a 50 on a test. That makes you eligible to retake an exam. First thing you need to do is wait 1 day. There's a 1-day waiting period before you're allowed to retest. Gives you an opportunity to review your materials. All right. The other requirement is you have to retest within 30 days of your initial attempt. So you have to wait 1 and do it within 30. All right. Now, when you take the retest, the highest score that you can get is 70%. Even if you got them all right, you're only being credited with a 70. The reason for that, it's designed to give you a minimum passing grade, okay? To bring your failing grade up to at least a minimum passing grade of 70, which would be a C, okay? Wouldn't be fair to somebody that only took it once and got an 80. If you got 100 on the retest to give you 100, they didn't have that opportunity. So it's just designed to give you a minimum passing grade. So again, to recap, the only time you can retest is if you fail. You have to wait 1 day and do it within 30 days. After 30 days, you're no longer eligible to retake it. So your original grade will default as your final grade. So if you're going to do it within the 30 days. And nothing can be done about that if it's locked out. Your take exam button's grayed out. All right, recapping our grading scale. Once again, 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C. Anything less than 70 is failing. The contact information, once again. Our toll-free number within the U.S., 888-427-1000. If you're outside the U.S., the phone number to call, our country code is 1. Phone number 480-947-3944. Our hours of operation, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which means if you're on the West Coast, you're 3 hours behind. We're here 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. your time. All right. Also, if we need to contact you, if you're on the West Coast, you're 3 hours behind us, we're not going to call you at 9 a.m. our time. That would be 6 o'clock in the morning your time. We usually wait till maybe about 12 o'clock our time, which would be 9 your time. Okay? We're not going to get you out of bed real early. And our mailing address, once again, especially for your transcripts, 925 Oak Street, Scranton, PA, 18515. By the way, that zip code is unique to Penn Foster. We have our own zip code here because we get so much mail. All right, that brings us to the point in the presentation where we're going to take you into these various miscellaneous areas, our student community, bookstore, library, and the career cruising website. So let's do the career cruising one first. Now, career cruising, and before I sign in here, let me take you back to the portal so you can see where you would sign in. Oh, wrong item here. All right, so I'm down on the portal. I'm under resources. So here's the community, the library, and career services, which is the career cruising site. And then the bookstore is over here. All right, the career services and library are duplicated. So you could click on here or here to get to those. So that's where you would click to go to the places where I'm going to take you now. All right, so for the career cruising site, you'll see some tabs across the top. Now, this is a career services site that you have access to from day one of your enrollment, okay? Now, the good thing about that is that our prior career services site, you didn't get access until you graduated. So for some of our students, they never got access because they didn't graduate. But you're allowed access from day one. So take advantage of that. Two things I want to point out because we're in limited time here. Under the Assessments tab, there is a feature called Matchmaker in My Skills here. And if you click on that, you're going to see, I think it's about a 40 or 45 question survey. And what it does is match your personality to certain areas of study and or jobs. Okay. So one of the questions you get is how much do you like working with kids? And if you give that a high number, and I think there's another question along those lines later on. So obviously the higher scores you give certain areas, they give you a set of recommendations once the survey is done. So if you give working with kids a high grade, one of the things that'll probably come near the top of your suggestions is going to be early childhood education. Okay, makes sense. You like working with kids, so that would be a good path for you. So why do I mention that? Because a lot of students will start out in one area of study and they'll get into it and they decide to change their mind, change their major, which is fine. That's okay. Not only that, maybe you're set on becoming an accountant, for example, and that's great. But you get your degree and you get out in the real world and you decide that it's not really what you thought it was going to be, and you decide to change jobs. Okay, same thing. It'll help you with that to give you a little better idea of maybe what you're better suited for. Now, a real life example of that is my wife. She grew up in a dairy farm. She got her degree in horticulture, and for the last 30 years plus, she's been a mortgage banker. So why did I just tell you that? Because life has a way of throwing you curveballs, okay? Life doesn't always go the way you plan it out. There's always things that happen that can impact your decisions and your, which path you're going to take. So in her case, she got her degree in horticulture. She was actually working for the USDA. And back in the 80s, for those of you that don't know, there was a crisis with farmers, and a lot of them were losing their farms and getting closed down. And because she had a farming background, the USDA was, seizing farms, which they didn't really want to do because that's not their area of expertise. But with her farm background, she was able to tell, okay, which people were worth putting the investment in and which weren't. Okay, give them a little better idea, make a better judgment on those type of situations. Okay, not that they followed her recommendations all the time, but it gave her exposure to the banking world. So they liked what she did, eventually offered her job in another area, and then so that's just one example of how things change. Okay, you always want to keep your options open. So just because you're in one area doesn't mean you're going to end up there. The other tab that you want to check out is under employment. The Build My Resume template here is one of the best I've seen. A lot of different ways that you can put your resume together. A lot of good templates. Gives you a little more influence on how to present your resume, inflect a little more of your personality into it. I mean, you don't want to get too crazy with it, but it's one of the better ones I've seen. So I highly advise you should always have a current resume on file. Okay, you never know what's going to happen. Even if you don't have any work experience, you should still create one, especially while you have access here. Okay, and then under the employment guide, there's some articles here with helping you with your interview skills, writing letters, again, with your putting your resume together, etc. So good site to use, your career services, career cruising site. Highly recommend it. All right, next up is our community. So we're going to sign into the community here. All right, now we could spend all day in the community, but we are limited on time. A couple things I want to point out are the tabs going across the top. Academic groups, social forums, news and events, blogs, jobs, and help. Okay. Now, you're not limited to whatever your major is. You can sign in and go anywhere you want. Okay, so that's one of the great things about the community. But this is a great place that you can come in and interact both socially and academically with other students and or faculty. Okay. So, for example, if I go in, you can see if I put my mouse over the academic groups tab, we have the college, career school, and the high school. All right, you can go at wherever you want. I'm going to click on the words academic groups. The reason for that, this is where those videos that we put up for the math and the accounting courses are located. So let me see if we can't. Okay, here we go. All right, so we clicked on academic groups. We're going to go down to under spaces, business, second item down, business. Clicking on that. On the left-hand side of the next page, you're going to see some how-to study guides. Right here, how-to study guides. First one is math for business and finance. If you click on learn more, it'll give you access to those videos. All right, now the math book has 22 chapters in it. So what we did is we went and we did a video for all the assigned homework problems, the practice quizzes, drill problems, word problems, practice tests. Okay, so obviously you want to try and do the problems on your own and come up with the right answers. But maybe you have an issue. Maybe you can't figure it out. Well, you can come in here and click on the video. The instructor will show you how to approach the problem, the theory behind it, how to set it up, and then how to go through the calculations. So the great thing about this is you have access to these 24/7. So if you're doing your math at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can come in here and check out the answers or how to set it up, etc. Whenever you want. So a great help. The math book just changed the addition, so some of the problems are might be a little bit different numbered, and that's what they're telling you here. So take a look at that. But for the most part, it's the same thing. Also, under the how-to study guides, there's one for financial accounting, and we did the same thing. For all I think there's 12 chapters in the financial accounting. But notice here, we have some blank forms. So, because in accounting, you're going to have some unique forms. You don't have to go out and buy them. You can come in and click on them, and you can print them off. Okay. So you don't need to run to your stationery store to buy accounting forms. All right. Now, I'm going to give you a heads up here. Your first assessment in the accounting course is not an exam. Okay. It's a project where you need to cover the first 3 chapters in your textbook, and the project consists of doing a fictitious company's financial statements for I think it's 3 months. Okay, they give you some transactions and you have to put together the financial statements for that fictitious company. Now, we did the same thing here. We talked a lot about the theory behind. We did some webinars that we recorded that you can watch whenever you'd like, and also did some videos on solving the homework problems that are assigned. We also put in some YouTube videos from a guy named Matt Fisher, who did a good job explaining some of these concepts. Okay, so at the end of chapter 3, a lot of students struggle with the project. So what we did was we did 6 videos for instructions on the project. You want to look at these videos. They will help you immensely when it comes to do the project. So a heads up, you definitely want to check out those videos when you're doing that financial accounting project. All right, now The nice thing about the community, you have control over how much or how little you want to participate. If you want to just come in here and read the questions and the answers that were given, great. If you want to ask questions, you can do that. You want to answer other students, you can do that. So again, it's totally up to you how much or how little you want to participate. Now, the nice thing about this, and this is one of the things I would use it for as a student, it's a good place to go to ask about electives, right? Ask somebody, well, what did you take, music or literature? And did you like it? What can I look forward to? You know, give you a little more information before you decide which elective you can choose. And that's totally okay. You can do that. Now, what you cannot do, obviously, is come in here and ask for, you know, exam answers. Okay, you'll get thrown out in a heartbeat if you do that. So that's not what this is all about. All right, now you can interact socially here. You can come in and introduce yourself. Again, this is not required, totally optional, totally up to you if you want to do it. Introduce yourself, share your experiences. There's some grats and shout outs, motivation area. We have a military group, and we have some student clubs and social, like the art club, cooking club, 30s club. I mean, there's music, there's all kind of clubs. So if you're interested in joining any of those, you know, help yourself out. Next up, news and events. What's going on at the school? Some instructors have blogs. Under jobs, we have job listings. But under career services, if we come down, we did some features on how to use social media for helping out your job search. Tips on your resume. Also, interview prep, how to get ready for interviews, etc. So a lot of good information here. So again, it's all totally free. It's part of your tuition. You don't pay any extra for this. So why not take advantage of it? Also, we are on other social media like Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So if you're on any of those, you can follow us there as well. One I particularly like to mention is YouTube. Just a phenomenal website. Not, you know, I know a lot of students use it for listening to music or watching videos and movies and that kind of stuff, and it's great for that. But it's a great educational resource. So, for example, maybe you're struggling with debits and credits in accounting. You go to YouTube, you type debits and credits in the search bar, you'll get video content, people instructing you on debits and credits. Okay, and not only for your academics, but real life situations. For example, last year I was checking the oil in my car, and at the end of my dipstick, it was a little circle thing. You put your finger through, and you pull it out. Well, when I did that, the circle thing pulled out from the rest of the dipstick. The dipstick is still in the holder, okay, or in the tube, whatever you want to call it. And so, how am I going to check the oil? So, I went in on YouTube and typed in, you know, dipstick broke still in the cylinder thing, tube. And there was a few videos of people, different ways of how to get that out. Okay. If I would have went to a mechanic to do it, probably would have cost me $100. Took me about 5 minutes to do it. Just an ingenious way to do it. And people are, you know, willing to share their information. So, and that happens all the time. People drop their cell phones or get goofy messages on their computers or whatever. If you go to YouTube, more than likely somebody experienced the same thing, or reviewing products, what you're going to buy. There's purchase decisions I made based on YouTube reviews, okay, good or bad. Most times it's just confirming that it's something I wanted and it's what I'm looking for. So highly recommend YouTube, just phenomenal website. All right, next up is the library. So I'm going to go in there now. And like I mentioned earlier in the webinar, this is a brand new library. We just went over to this format about 2 weeks ago. So as you can see, it's virtual. We have high school, career school, and college. So I'm clicking on college. Now, we're still in the process of moving all of our information over from our old library to the new one, but you'll see under the different guides here, maybe you have, say, under accounting, you can click on that and you can see all the different applications for accounting. If you go into the A to Z databases and then you click on and you search on something, maybe you're going to search on, say, for economics. Okay, then it's going to give you a couple other options to check out. So let's go in under Econ Biz, for example. You'll see some great resources to go to for help with and publications for economics. Okay. So the library, it's another part of your program. You don't pay any extra for it. So, and we're adding more content here all the time. So, and especially when you're for like a research paper, first place you want to start is the library. It's the best place to go. All right, and last up here is the bookstore. By the way, we're getting close to the end here, so if anybody has any questions, please type them in and we will go over them before. I'll stay as long as people are asking any questions. All right, now the bookstore is here. We do sell books at the bookstore, but that's not what the bookstore is about. You don't need to buy your books at the bookstore. Your books are sent to you automatically. Okay, so any textbooks that you have coming will be sent automatically. You don't go to the bookstore and buy them. Okay. Now we do sell books. Maybe you want to take an extra course on something, then you can buy the book for that extra course. All right. But for your program, they're sent automatically. You don't buy them at the bookstore. Now we do sell other merchandise like caps and gowns, because we're having graduation here pretty soon, next month actually. Plaques for your diplomas, hats and t-shirts and hoodies and coffee mugs and all that kind of merchandise. So if you're interested, you can go up under the product categories and check that those items out. Okay, so that's the bookstore. All right, let's head back to the PowerPoint and finish up. So we just looked at all four of those. I want to put my email address up again. It's robert.messina@pennfoster.edu. Anybody wants a copy of the slides I use, send me an email. I'll be glad to send those along to you. Also, if anybody thinks of something after the fact or at some point in the future, you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. Now, while I'm waiting for any other questions, because nobody's asked any questions, but while I'm waiting, a couple more minutes here, just want to go over all the resources that you have available to you. Some students think that since they're online, they're all alone, nowhere to go to get help. But I think we demonstrated throughout the webinar today that you have a lot of resources available. First of all, the 125 student resources that we clicked off on the home page, those 5 groups of 25 in each group, like the time management resources, etc. A lot of great ones there. So students forget about those, but don't you be one of those. So if you need them, they're there for you. Student community, we were just in there and showing you all the great features and benefits of the student community. The library, again, another great resource that you have available, especially when you're doing any kind of research. Career Cruising, our career services site. Great that you have the capability of going in there from day one of your enrollment. You don't have to wait till you're graduated. And some great career advice that you can get in Career Cruising. YouTube, just a personal favorite of mine. Just a phenomenal website. You use it all the time. And then last but not least, the instructors here at the school. And we're available on the phone, via email, or also on the community. So you can interact with us in any of those 3 ways. Okay, let me put my email address up there again. Looks like we do have the first question of the day coming from Connie, asking, once you are in a program and decide that the program you are in is not what you want, can you change your program? The answer to that is yes, you can change. So depending on what you're in and what you're changing to, it's determined based on what you want to do. So if you're staying in a degree program, usually what we do, especially if you're in the first semester, is, and if you're, have gone through a few courses, is to finish off the semester, because most everything's going to transfer to another degree program. Now, if you're going from a degree program to a career program, then that's a little bit different, okay? Or career to a degree. A career program is not college level, so you won't get any credit for that if you transfer to a degree program. But yes, you can certainly do that. My advice is to call in and speak to an instructor, and they'll guide you. They'll give you the pluses and minuses and leave the decision up to you. But we can guide you in the best way to go about doing that. Okay. All right. While I'm waiting for any other questions, I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for your attendance today. I know this is an optional webinar, but hopefully you learned a few things, got to know us a little bit better, got a little bit of an idea of what to expect from us, and get to know your student portal a little bit better, where to find things. That's what it's all about. Also, want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for choosing Penn Foster to fulfill your educational needs. We don't take that for granted, and we realize that you have a choice, and we're proud and glad that you chose Penn Foster to do that. Okay. Don't see any other questions coming in, so I'm going to assume that there are no more. So, but again, I do want to thank everybody for your attendance. I do look forward to interacting with you in the upcoming days, weeks, and months ahead, and hope everybody enjoys the upcoming Memorial Holiday weekend. So take some time to remember what the holiday is all about and give thanks for those that came before us and sacrificed. Okay? All right. Appreciate your attendance, and good luck to everybody. Take care.